Irreverent, entertaining, cool. You're listening to LA Talk Radio.
You're listening to Peace Fund Radio with Ethan Dettenmaier and Adrian Paul, right here on LA Talk Radio.
Through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh, o'er the fields we go, laughing all the way. Bells on bobtails ring, making spirits bright. What fun it is to laugh and sing a sleighing song tonight. Ooh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Ooh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Ooh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh, o'er the fields we go, laughing all the way. Bells on bobtails ring, they're making spirits bright. What fun it is to laugh and sing a sleighing song tonight. Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Let's jingle all the way.
Jingle bells. Jingle bells. Isn't that a little early,
No,
Ethan?
it's not.
I mean,
It's
I
absolutely
can't
right
believe
on
it's already
time.
Christmas. Isn't that supposed to start after Thanksgiving?
No,
Why not?
because we have a limited window in which to do our charity work.
Oh,
so
that's
it
true. Yeah,
starts
that's true.
right now.
Then where did that song come from? Because I'm plugging you here. Here we
That
go.
dynamic track happens to be part of a 2-disc Christmas set we put together and produced for social services, featuring everyone from the members of Oingo Boingo to Beyonce's band to Prince's band to the members of Blondie. Fantastic. Adrian Paul is on it and all his outtakes. And you can get it at CD Baby by
Yeah,
just
and he's been
entering a
threatening to-
Combat Radio Christmas. Now, let me say that without an obstruction. CD Baby, enter Combat Radio Christmas. It comes up and you can get a single track and help the cause or a song. Yes.
Without an obstruction, were you talking about me obstructing your little plug there?
I was just desperate to get the word out. Our Christmas
Desperate
benefit
is the
concert
word.
and toy drive is
Desperate.
the 22nd. I believe you're joining us.
Yes, I'm definitely going to try and join you. I'm still in boxes at the moment, but I will, get out of boxes. Actually, which reminds me,
Get
of
out of
social
boxes.
services, I can't find them anymore.
Well,
I mean,
that's
I've got bags of stuff to get rid of at the
Well,
moment, so I've got to find a place to actually go there and do that.
No, I can take care of it because they moved to Canoga Park after their office burned
That's
down.
true. That's
You
true.
know,
And I have all my
devastation.
things.
So I can actually take it for you, or we can go over there together.
All right. Okay. I actually have them in the car. Not
Sweet.
today. Tomorrow I'm working on a film. I'm working on 2 days on a
You're
film.
employed.
Can you believe that? I'm employed. Weird thing for an actor to be employed. Anyway, listen, tomorrow is Universal Children's Day. The United Nations Universal Children's Day was established in 1954. It's Ethan's birthday. And is celebrated on November 20th each year to promote international togetherness, awareness among children worldwide, and improving children's welfare. Universal Children's Day is not simply a day to celebrate children for who they are, but to bring awareness to children around the globe that have succumbed to violence in forms of abuse, exploitation, and discrimination. Children are used as laborers in some countries, immersed in armed conflict, living on the streets, suffering by differences, be it religion, minority issues, or disabilities. Children who are feeling the effects of war can be displaced because of armed conflict, and they can suffer physical and psychological trauma. Currently, there are about 153 million children between the ages of 5 and 14 who are forced into child labor. Now, we've dealt with this before on the show. We have a lot of great organizations that have focused on child labor across the world. We have some child heroes that John Beerley has brought on. I'm sure he's going to actually bring us up to date with that. Whoops, I've just dropped the bottle. Bring us up to date later on in the show. But we also have a guest in the show this morning, and her name is Marisa, an American Petroro, part Italian, which is I love in Argentinian, and American film and television actor, model, humanitarian from Elizabeth, New Jersey. Hello, good morning, Marisa. How are you?
I'm great.
Yes, you're Argentinian Italian descent, and you've been in Hollywood and recognized for a diverse range of on-screen personalities. You started at 4, I see, that in East Coast beauty pageants.
Yes.
Okay, so you've had roles such as Pumpkin and the Tomcats, The Pretender, The Young and the Restless, Reno 911, Miami, Deal or No Deal, Rules. You've done a lot of stuff, and you've also done a lot of charity stuff as well about cancer. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I'm a cancer survivor of Rhabdomyosarcoma for over 20 years now. I was diagnosed when I was 19.
19, wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a long time ago.
No, it wasn't. Don't be ridiculous.
It was just the other day. And I was over at the Tomorrow's Children's Fund, actually, over at Hackensack Medical Center in New Jersey, and they helped me along the way. Wonderful organization.
Is that what made you sort of start wanting to get involved in doing charity work?
Yeah, it just kind of, fell into my lap, shall we say. I mean, I wanted to pay forward my experiences.
Now, say it again. Rhabdomyosarcoma.
Rhabdomyosarcoma.
Okay, can you explain what that is? It's a rare cancer,
It's a
right?
rare mainly childhood cancer, and I had a tumor in my right forearm, in the muscle mass of my right forearm.
And what did they have to do? Did they have to cut it out?
So they cut it out. I went through a year of chemo and radiation, and I got through it,
So you actually are on the Sarcoma Foundation of America, right? I
was their national spokesperson for a couple of years. I think it was like 2007 to 2010, and then they asked me to be on the board.
So how much time do you actually spend on the board, and what do you do?
Well, I just after I kind of toured the U.S. At the time I was on Deal or No Deal, so I was promoting that show along with the Sarcoma Foundation of America on different news shows, like morning news shows. So when the show ended, I just speak about the organization, and pay forward my experiences to.
Well, I've got their mission here. Basically, it's to advocate for sarcoma patients by funding research and by increasing awareness about the disease. It raises money to privately fund grants for sarcoma researchers and conducts education and advocacy efforts on behalf of sarcoma patients. Just so that those of you out there wanting to find, you can actually find them at curesarcoma.org. Is that right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're a charity navigator 3-star foundation. Let's just talk a little bit about that, because I mean, obviously, kids versus cancer. I mean, it's a horrible thing to actually have your kid go through something like that. I mean, have you actually had experience when you're dealing with patients that deal with it, or do?
Yeah, I've had a lot of parents reach out to me in support, and a lot of the things that I tell them is basically to focus on their health, in the sense of what are they putting into their bodies. Because food has a lot to do with disease. It's huge, and a lot of people don't realize
they don't get it. No,
a lot of hospitals don't get that. A lot of doctors don't get that, and so along with meditation as well, all of that plays a factor into healing your body and keeping your body alkaline. So.
Well, there's actually talking about that is very interesting, because a friend of mine got cancer a little bit ago, and one of the things, a lot of the research we were looking up for him, and he looked up, was the fact that some of the things that you eat that can prevent cancer, there's certain proteins that you can actually have that prevent cancer, once you have cancer, can actually accelerate it if you continue to eat them.
Exactly.
So you have to be very aware of what you're eating to stop that process from happening.
Absolutely. I was following this little boy on Facebook who was he was diagnosed with some type of lymphoma or sarcoma or something. It was a couple of years ago, and his mom, was writing blogs about, he wasn't doing very well. And one day he had a really good day. And his mom I treated him, and I took him to McDonald's and had French fries and milkshake, and he was finally eating. And it took every ounce of my body to not write something. I was like, Marisa, don't do it. And then because I know that she wasn't going to take it in the right light, but I tried to be very gentle, and I said, please don't feed your child that. It's not going to help him in the end. And I don't know that she took it too kindly, but I was just doing it out of love and support, because cancer grows where there's sugar. And so even having fruit, sometimes when you're going through an illness, is not the best thing for your body.
Although fruit is very good
No. It is very good. Yeah, it is. And if you want sugar, I would say have fruit before you're going to have a candy bar. But research has been proven that if you take the sugar out, it'll alkaline your body, and thus, disease can't really grow in that state.
But then again, you're actually also talking about, today. I mean, I'm doing it myself. Is actually taking alkaline water now rather than just getting regular bottled water. Is actually going to a place that there are stores that actually have alkaline water to actually allows you to be less acidic in your body.
Exactly.
And that's what I think is also helps. And I know that I have more energy when I do things like that.
Oh,
it changes your entire being. I mean. The interesting thing is that your child has cancer. It's a terrible thing to actually tell a parent.
Of course.
And there's more than 260,000 families around the world that are going to hear that this year. 3 minutes from now, a child will be diagnosed with cancer, and another family will be faced with a very real possibility of losing a child. And I don't think, and again, as you said, I think eating is one of the key things that will prevent that from happening. Obviously, everybody's makeup is different.
Of course.
So, what somebody eats, they could eat the same thing, but it affects the child totally differently.
Exactly. And when somebody is diagnosed, that person and their family, you kind of go into this many hours or several days of just crying and just kind of, losing yourself in that. But then you just kind of kick in and you go into survival mode. I've seen it in myself and my family and other people. You just go into survival mode. And it's always wonderful to see actually people who have been diagnosed, and I've been in remission for over 20 years now, and to kind of see those people, they have such strength. These kids have so much strength going through all of the drugs that they're going through.
Well, I think it's impossible to measure the impact that childhood cancer actually has on the victims, like you said. I mean, and it really does impact them, and I'm sure it impacts the entire family. It has a domino effect that we talk about a lot here. I want to put some facts about cancer for people to really consider here. It's every day, 42 children are diagnosed with cancer. In 2014, an estimated 15,780 children and adolescents will be newly diagnosed with cancer, and an estimated 1,960 children and adolescents will die from cancer. 12% of children diagnosed with cancer do not survive. The average age of children diagnosed is 6. 6. So what you're giving your child, I mean, I've actually watched, and I'm having new children in a set, new kids, new babies. Mine are 2 and 5. And we discuss how parents behave with their kids. I mean, we live in a world where you just don't have time to feed your kids. But I know one of my wife's friends feeds her child sugar. I'm like, well, first of all, that's going to send her off the wall. Secondly,
I know exactly.
I mean,
it's going to drive the parents.
It's going to drive the parents crazy. But I mean, but what you just said, by creating that sugar base, it actually increases the possibility of cancer.
Yes. And some people's body are stronger to sort of support that, and then they won't get sick, but most won't. So.
Well, they say here that 60% of children who survive cancer suffer late effects such as infertility, heart failure, and secondary cancers, which again is pretty scary because you think you've got it beaten, and then suddenly there are secondary issues involved with it.
Right. Parents have to watch what they give their children. They have to take the effort to make their lunches, their dinners, and not just, I don't have time, I'm going to just send them off to McDonald's. Because then they're going to be dealing with other things like hospitals. So what's the difference? I mean, I've got some interesting things here, but what's the difference between kid cancer and adult cancer? I don't know. I'm not a scientist, so I can't really speak of that. But I know with sarcomas, they're difficult to find because they're usually the tumors are sort of like really deep into
Embedded.
your body, embedded into your body, so you don't really know what's happening until it's too late.
Well, here it basically says that some cancers never strike after the age of 5. I mean, again, you think of cancer, it's one word, but there are actually different types, as you mentioned. And others often occur in teenagers, and even when kids get cancers that adults get, like lymphoma, they must be treated differently because children are not just simply smaller adults. They've got to treat them differently. And adult cancers can be diagnosed early, and in 80% of kids, cancer has already spread to other areas of the body by the time it is diagnosed. So how do you diagnose a kid with cancer? I mean, how does somebody go out there and go, well, my kid's got cancer? How do you know this? I mean, compared to...
I just, for myself, when I was diagnosed, I was experiencing numbness in my hand and my fingers when I was at college, and I didn't understand what it was. I thought I was writing too much because my hand was resting on the desk, and then what I found out, the tumor was resting on the ulnar nerve that was causing numbness, and so that's how I was diagnosed. You have to pay attention to your body. You have to see what, one day to the next, what's not right, and to not just let it go, to seek help and advice on how to help it.
Well, you talked about there are different types of childhood cancers. There's leukemia, of course, which occurs in it's cancer of the bone marrow and blood, and it's the most common childhood cancer that accounts for about 31% of all cancers in children.
Right, and like with blood, actually, there's the parents could give their children chlorophyll because chlorophyll helps the blood. It's a molecular structure that's almost identical to hemoglobin, except for the center of the atom. So in the hemoglobin, it's iron, and chlorophyll, it's magnesium. And so when ingested, that liquid chlorophyll can actually help to do the job of hemoglobin by rebuilding and replenishing the red blood cells, boosting energy, and increasing overall well-being almost instantly. And a lot of parents, perhaps, who have children with leukemia don't know that, and I don't know that the doctors are really telling them that.
I think a lot of the time, and we've discussed the issue of the medical profession in the country. It's all about money a lot of the time, and sometimes giving somebody pills to go over the problem is not necessarily going to solve the problem. It's
going to cause more problems.
Exactly. So having that thing, I agree with you. Some doctors don't know about that, and I've had people or friends of mine that have had issues, and they said the doctors never even. I'm not talking about cancer, but I'm talking about the doctors never even looked at that way of actually solving it. They went to totally this is how the administration's told me how to deal with it, and that's how I'm going to give you. Here are the pills, here's the prescription, and go and get it filled at your local pharmacy. Right.
Exactly. Like when I was, I didn't know back then, but I had lost like 30 pounds, and they're just trying to get me to eat when I was going through all the chemo. And I remember them trying to feed me these shakes that were, 600, 700, 800 calories just to kind of start adding some weight on me. But I don't know exactly what was in it, but it was a ton of fruit and eggs, and eggs are acidic on your system, and it was not the right thing
to give
me at the time.
And these are the doctors.
The nutritionists at the hospital, and they don't really,
But do you think that the times have changed in the sense of what they know about it and what they can actually now give you? Do you think that's different now or not?
I hope so. I don't know what they're specifically feeding the kids, in the hospital who are going through cancer. I would hope so, but there's no money in healthy foods.
No, there's not. Well, actually, that's not true. There are some places that
in the other way of actually buying them, but for pharmaceutical companies and hospitals,
that's different. Yeah.
No.
There's no Washington lobbyist for the broccoli growers of America.
Exactly. You see, there's. And, you're still here, Ethan. Didn't know you were still here.
I was not going to intrude on a very interesting subject.
No, I'm just joking.
That's called courtesy. It's amazing how one of us gets it and one of us doesn't.
Okay. I get this every week, so it's okay. We get.
Oh no, we didn't want to leave you out.
No, we never want to leave you out.
I think the audience needs to hear your message. I think it's very important, and I'm only giving Adrian the typical hard time he normally gets.
So there's another type of sarcoma which we discussed, solid tumors, which is what you have, which affect bone, organs, and tissue. It's for those of you who don't know, solid tumor is a lump of 6 cells stuck together, which can develop in many parts of the body: the brain, the kidneys, the liver, the bones, and the cells crowd out healthy cells and keep them from doing their job. And sarcoma is a rare cancer in adults, so it's 1% of all adult cancers, but rather prevalent in children, in about 15% of all childhood cancers. It's made of many subtypes because it can arise from a variety of tissue structures, nerve, muscles, joints, blah, blah, blah. Because these tissues are found everywhere in the body, sarcoma is going to arise anywhere. But the most frequent location is like you had, which was the limbs, since that's where the majority of the body's connective tissues reside. So I guess it's in the connective tissue that it actually happens. And another common type is brain and central nervous system tumors, which make up about 21% of childhood cancers. Most brain tumors in children start in the lower parts of the brain, such as the cerebellum or brain stem, and causing headaches, nausea, vomiting, blurred or double vision, dizziness, and trouble walking or handling objects. So just check your kids out if they have anything like that. It's always better to actually get them early in anything, really, isn't it? I mean,
exactly,
it's easy to treat once you get it. If you think your kid's kind of dizzy for 3 or 4 weeks, you might want to go somewhere and have it checked out.
Right, exactly, because you don't want it to go. If it's in stage 1, it's, you have better hope, better chance stage 2, as opposed to when it gets to stage 3 or stage 4.
Right. Is John Bealey around? Because let's see if John Bealey
he is on.
John.
Yes. Good morning, Adrian, Ethan, and Marisa. Welcome to Peace Fund Radio. We're happy to have you on.
Oh, thank you.
Just so that you know, John is our Peace Fund hero bringer of the each week, as well as Factaholic, I would call him. He knows all the different things that happen around the globe, as well as all the people that come to the show. So, John, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing very well. Happy to be here on our 101st episode of Peace Fund Radio.
Yes.
We made it past the century mark, and we're just rocketing forward. It's great.
We're kicking it, I think.
We are.
What updates do you have for us today? Because I know you actually have a few. I think there's some charities that you want to make a shout out to.
Yes, I wanted to, especially where today's topic was pediatric cancer, I wanted to take a look back at some of the previous heroes of the week we featured on our show who have worked hard to help children with pediatric cancer. Our very first hero of the week, in fact, was Annaleise Carr, who, when she was 14 years old, raised $250,000 by swimming 33 miles in 27 hours across Lake Ontario in 2012. Decided that wasn't enough, so earlier this year, she raised another $225,000 by swimming across Lake Erie, 46 miles in total. She had to split that up between 2 different swims. The first swim was 27 miles, the second was 19. She would have done the whole thing in one chunk, but weather conditions the first time out, they had to abandon the swim in the middle of it. But she's raised, almost $500,000 for Camp Trillium, which is a camp in Canada that provides comfort and care for pediatric cancer patients and their families. And if you go to her website at annalisecarr.com, you can buy Annalise's book, which tells the story of her first swim. It's an incredible story. It's harrowing. I mean, it goes from, they're in the water and there are boats that aren't supposed to be there that are coming toward her. There's one point where she's swimming among eels. It's crazy. Fantastic book, very inspiring. Check it out. Other organizations that we have featured on the show before include Shred Kids Cancer. The founder of that is Tegan Stedman. He founded it when he was 8 years old, and one of his young friends was diagnosed with cancer. And Tegan at first was just totally afraid for his friend, and that quickly turned into, well, what can I do for my friend? So at 8 years old, he founds Shred Kids Cancer, which you can read about at shredkidscancer.org. And basically, he organizes music festivals to raise money for pediatric cancer research. So far, Tegan has raised more than $200,000 since age 8. And he uses that money to write grant after grant after grant to pediatric cancer research organizations and some of the top institutions and hospitals in the United States.
How old is Tegan now?
He is, I think he's... You've got me stumped. I think 14 or 15 now.
But he's still raising $200,000.
Oh yeah,
which is just
still going.
I love this, John, because every week, we have all these kids that kind of put us to shame in a sense of actually the amount of things that they're actually able to do. Don't you agree, Ethan? I mean, really, you know,
amazing.
you just raised $200,000. Somebody would love to have a salary. I mean, you know, but I think, you know, Ethan's nodding his head because it really does shock us every week that the stuff that you bring us.
Yes, and we've got even more. We have even more. We had Olivia Wright from Tennessee. Her organization is called Tennessee Hugs, which you can read about at TennesseeHugs.org. She has delivered 82,000 pairs of shoes to children in need from Appalachia to Mozambique. And somehow, on the side of delivering 82,000 pairs of shoes to children in need, she also does a lot of volunteer work with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society to bring awareness and fundraising to children who are suffering from pediatric cancer. So many more of these stories that are absolutely inspiring and incredible. Alexandra Scott, who was diagnosed with neuroblastoma in 1996, just before her very first birthday. By the time Alex passed away at the age of 8 in 2004, she had raised over $1 million for pediatric cancer research through her lemonade stand, which you can read about at alexslemonade.org. And in the 10 years since Alex's passing, her friends and her family have continued her mission and raised $80 million to fund 450 childhood cancer research projects at 102 top hospitals and institutions in the United States and Canada. Heartbreaking story, but a beautiful story. Again, for the 8 years of this girl's life, it was constant, painful treatment. And through all of that pain, all she cared about was, how can I make this better for other children who are going through the same thing that I am? And she, again, has this $80 million legacy of research and development. Another very similar story is Jessica Rees. Jessica was 12 years old when she was diagnosed with 2 brain tumors in 2011. And the brain tumors worked very quickly. They claimed her life within a year of being diagnosed. But in those final few months of her life, she decided that she also wanted to do as much as she could to bring comfort and care to other children who were suffering in the same way that she was. She founded an organization called Never Give Up, which you can read about at negu.org. And in the years since Jessica passed away, the organization has continued to thrive. They have raised $3 million for 80,000 kids in 275 children's hospitals and cancer centers in all 50 states of the United States and 27 other countries.
I'm just wondering here, John. I mean, you know, the interesting thing is that, you know, we were talking with Marisa earlier about how, you know, a lot of it, you're funding research for cancer. I'm sure there is a cure somewhere that people have created, rather than patching the what's the word, the giving somebody the treatment. You know, it's actually to try and find the cure for cancer. I mean, there's as you've stated, there are millions and millions of dollars spent every year regarding finding research, but what type of research do these organizations do? I mean, Marisa, I know you're
well, you know, they're just constantly trying to, you know, find out what the cells are doing and how they're interacting with other things. But for me personally, it's about the food that we're eating. Dr. Otto Warburg, back in the, a long time ago, he won the Nobel Peace Prize for basically making the discovery that, you know, where there's oxygen, disease can't grow, cancer cells can't grow. And so that's about keeping an alkaline state in your body.
Does that affect all different types of cancer? I mean, is that across the board, or is that, you know, I mean?
I think with all disease.
Well, John, I'm going to let you.
Yes.
I'm going to let you do this, and then go on to the hero of the week. And Ethan will chime in some more, I'm sure, about that.
Yes. Well, quickly too, I wanted to say that Tegan Stedman from Shred Kids Cancer, he has some information on his website saying that in the past 20 years, the FDA has only approved 2 new drugs for pediatric cancer. However, pediatric cancer is up 29% over the last 20 years. and that the largest amount of funding for childhood cancer research comes from the government, but represents only 4% of what is provided to adult cancer research. And again, that's why it's so important that so many of these organizations that have been founded by children are focusing on the cutting-edge research wherever it is. They find the cutting-edge research that's being done for pediatric cancer, and that's where they're giving this money and writing these grants to try to even the playing field a little bit between the amount of research that's being done between adult and childhood cancers. Another great story that we have, Malcolm Sutherland-Foggio. He was one of our heroes of the week. He was diagnosed with cancer in 2008 at the age of 10. Today, he's 16 years old. He's still battling cancer, lives with it every second of his life, fights tooth and nail every day. And again, through all of his pain and struggle, he has found the time to found an organization called Make Some Noise, which is Pediatric Cancer Research Foundation. You can read about that at Make Noise for Kids. That's Make Noise, numeral 4, kids.org. Malcolm has raised more than $1 million for pediatric cancer research, development, and awareness. Now, no conversation about cancer can be complete, I don't think, without mentioning one of our favorite heroes of the week around here, Jack Andraka, who Jack is 17 years old now. 3 years ago, Jack got an idea of how to come up with a test for pancreatic cancer. Now, pancreatic cancer is very dangerous because it's very difficult to detect. The 1-year survival rate is 20%. The 5-year survival rate is 6% because the current ways of detecting it just aren't doing the job. Jack came up with an idea of how to test for it. He presented his idea to 198 scientists who all said, "Jack, this is the stupidest idea we've ever heard. This is ridiculous. This will never work. Go back to the drawing board. Leave me alone. This is not going to work." Finally, the 199th scientists he talks to, Dr. Anirban Mitra from the Johns Hopkins Institute, looks at Jack's budget and research and says, "You know what, Jack, I'm not sure I believe this will work, but I believe that you believe it will work. So I'm going to give you some laboratory space in my laboratory to work on your theory." Jack works for months and months and months. At one point during the process, he has a laboratory accident that causes him to lose weeks' worth of very difficult to replicate data. Most people at that point would have just said, "Oh, this is too difficult, I'm going to give up." But Jack didn't give up. He kept going. Every second that he wasn't in school, evenings, weekends, every second he wasn't in school, he was in that laboratory. And his mother, Jane, would sit in the car and wait for Jack to finish his research. And one night she was sitting in the car reading a book. She fell asleep, and she hears this pounding on the window of the car. And she looks up and she looks out the window and she sees Jack standing there with tears streaming down his face and this huge grin. And she knew from the look on his face that he had done it, that he had figured it out. Jack was able to invent, using items, by the way, that he and his father bought at a hardware store for $30. This is amazing. A pancreatic cancer test that is 168 times faster, 400 times more sensitive, and 27,000 times cheaper than current alternatives for detecting pancreatic cancer. And now that he's figured out how to do it with pancreatic cancer, he has now adapted the test for ovarian cancer. He's adapted it for lung cancer. And he is coming up with, by finding a new angle, a new way with which to approach cancer detection, he's just totally changing the way science is looking at how to do that. And I honestly think you look back and you read some of these stories and you think one day when the cure for cancer is found, you almost feel like one of the names of these kids are going to be attached to it because they're the ones who are on the cutting edge, thinking outside the box, finding ways to bring attention and awareness and fundraising to the battle against pediatric cancer. And that brings us to our brand new Hero of the Week. I would like to thank Peace Fund Radio listener Sharon Rollins for bringing this story to my attention. Sharon, thank you so much. Sharon actually told me about this story back in April, and I've been hanging on to it. I've been waiting for an episode where this one would really fit in, and I think today's episode is the perfect one for it. Grace Callwood of Bel Air, Maryland, was diagnosed with lymphoma when she was only 7 years old. She's 10 years old now. In April of this year, she was declared cancer-free by her doctors after 3 grueling years of chemotherapy. And during that time that she was so ill, she knew how she felt. She knew how helpless it made her feel sometimes. And one of the ways that she thought she could help other children was by reaching out and letting them know that, hey, if you're going through a rough time, if you're scared of your cancer, if you are in pain, it's going to be better and it's going to be okay. So she started an organization called We Cancerve, which is spelled We, CANCERVE. She actually works the word cancer in there. WeCancerve.org. And they've been in operation since 2011. And in that time, she has donated 172 Easter baskets, which she calls extra, very clever, extra special Easter baskets, to children who are in hospitals around the United States. She's provided more than $1,700 in cash grants to Sinai Hospital, the Casey Cares Foundation, the Harford Family House. She has also expanded from just working with sick kids to also helping children who are homeless, children who are in foster homes. She's donated 150 clothing items to homeless children through her Threads of Hope initiative. She has donated more than 150 kits to children who are hospitalized around the United States to decorate their hospital rooms so that they feel more comfortable and that they feel more at home. She's donated 140 pounds of school supplies to children from Maryland to Kenya. And she has also amassed over 150 hours of community service. And this is just a small sample of the work she has done. Again, go to wecancerve.org to find out about all of the other things that Grace is up to. Her organization, this is so great. The board members of her organization, the oldest board member is 18 years old. The youngest board member is 7 years old. And again, these are children who are looking at problems, not worrying about the logistics and the bureaucracies that sometimes keep adults from, just kind of being overwhelmed about, well, how do we approach this problem? These are young children who are just saying, okay, well, what's the problem? This is what we think we should do about it. And they're getting it done. It's so inspiring and it's so exciting. So Grace Callwood, for turning your illness into inspiration for so many other children, not only the children that you are inspiring to join your board, but by the children that you are helping every day. You are our brand new Peace Fund Radio Hero of the Week.
Yeah, brilliant. I want to join the board, too, as a media advisor. Let's put this kid up front and center with all of the mainstream media so they can detect what she's doing. Really brilliant job. And, you got to give it up for these parents, too, especially in Andraka's case, whose mom was driving him repeatedly to the lab. Yeah. And, I'm sure everyone was like, what are you doing? What? Well, I'm sitting in front of a medical. He's 10 or whatever, however old he was at the time. I'm sure there was all kinds. She continuously drove him there. All these parents for encouraging their kids a can-do philosophy versus what's pretty typical out there nowadays. It gives us hope for the future.
It's so inspiring and it's so exciting. I love telling these stories. It almost it's amazing. And in the case of Grace, our new hero, her mother's name is Tajay Ellis, and of course, obviously, she was terrified. I mean, I don't have any children, so I cannot imagine what it would be like to be told that your child has cancer. I can't even fathom it.
Well, that would be the scariest day of my life for sure.
I can't even fathom it. But it helped her to see that her daughter turned that diagnosis into, okay, well, Mom, we can't change the fact that I have cancer, so let's do what we can to help other kids who do.
Yeah, you can't.
And it's amazing. It's amazing what these kids are able to do at their young ages. And again, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they're not weighed down by the ideas of logistics or any of the other things that sometimes as adults I do this sometimes, and every time I catch myself doing it, I think about these kids who have been able to accomplish so much. Sometimes we get overwhelmed by a task. We think, oh gosh, I'm not even sure, how can I do this? Well, just don't worry about it. Just do it, and everything will work out. These kids prove that every week, and we are very proud to be able to bring you these stories.
Yeah, the great ones always do see the target, and they feel that the logistics can be solved along the way later. And that's the great ones, meaning people, young and old. They always know that the objective is what they're about and what they're going to go out and do, and whatever problems they may encounter, they solve it. They solve it. And John, a big debt to you because you're the one that reports on this, and I think through that we probably encouraged other kids to realize, hey, you don't have to just sit in the classroom and take it, meaning life. You can go out there and you can build your own future and you can build your own destiny, and really nothing is beyond our grasp if you have the motivation and the wherewithal to do it. I mean, it's amazing what some of these kids have done. It's amazing. It's nothing short of that. It's just absolutely stunning. What we need to do is get them all in the room and create our own sort of G20 summit and solve all the world's problems.
I would love to do that, actually. And I know one of Adrian's biggest goals with the Peace Fund has been to sort of create almost a hub where all of these charities can get together and share ideas. And moving forward, I think that's something that we really need to focus on. And I think it's a great idea that Adrian had, and I can't wait to see in the coming months that really start to come together. It's going to be really exciting, because these are the kids who are changing the world every day, and I think the sky's the limit with these kids. It's great.
Yeah, Peace Fund Summit, and it really makes a statement. In particular, going back to Andraka's case, because that is such an indictment of the way the medical system works, in a sense, where this little guy at the time creates this method that is a small percentage of the cost and a small percentage of the hassle, and it makes you think on a broad level with everything the medical industry does. Can it not be economized? Can it not be more efficient? Can it not be done with better execution? It just really, he not only solves a problem, but he raises all these questions that I think people don't tend to dwell on. Like, you have to look at the medical profession and the industry as a whole, and you just want to just dismantle it and throw half of it.
And not only that, Ethan, but he did it after 198 adults, scientists who he had idolized his entire life. I mean, can you imagine a scientist that you have idolized your entire life looks at you and says, no, your idea is ridiculous. Your idea is stupid. Never going to work.
Yeah.
He got that 198 times. I mean, but he never gave up.
It's amazing that, none of those guys offered. Well, I mean, as I understand the story, there wasn't a lot of encouragement offered from these types, which is in itself, again, another indictment. It's like, this is the way we do it. C'est la vie, kid. Good luck. And his mom's still sleeping in the car, saying, go after it, go after it, go after it. And I just think, it's a metaphor for life, in a sense, because whatever it is you want to rise up to and meet, you can do it. That's the thing that I think the weekly message is really about. It's like, you don't have to be restricted by the demands of society around you, much of which is closed-minded. You are capable of wondrous things if you put your ingenuity to it, and it doesn't matter how old you are. Don't let people who tell you no. That means absolutely nothing in this life. It never has, really, for any of us. And if you look at anything you've achieved, even the most basic achievements were done with probably people telling you couldn't do it.
Right.
So, it's just an amazing bit of enlightenment that I think the rest of the world needs to hear, because whether you're going to go out and find a new method for cancer detection or fix the problem with Washington, it can be done, even though no one's going to really want you to do it at first, and no one wants to lift a finger to help you because society is inherently lazy. But you can go out there and you can do it, and you can really shake things up, and you should be a revolutionary and not be part of the machine, which is almost broken and dead anyway. There's a big opportunity for young people and older people who hear about these young people. I mean, look at the positive momentum that we can get going with this.
Totally agreed. And again, so many of these kids have done these things when they themselves were sick. It's just again, they just don't worry. They don't worry about themselves. They don't worry about the logistics. They just see their ideas through to the end and open up all kinds of doors for other children to have those other children to have a chance. And that's what I like about all of this too, is that one of these kids that is helped by one of these other kids is going to. And we've heard of that too, where they're going to start their own organization. They're going to, they're going to be inspired to make a difference, and it just keeps growing and building. And
it's what they refer to, in marketing as ambiguous dollars. It's an ambiguous movement. You can't really detect where the positivity down the line comes back, but it is out there, and it expands and contracts based on the good work of other people and the involvement of other people. I mean, it's really impressive that people get out there and do it, and that's when a lot of these kids are finest. I think that's when the human race is at their finest. For the most part, it's at its best and its worst when people's backs are against the wall. And unfortunately, that's the perversion with me. I don't really start swinging until my back is against the wall in a situation. But it's great to see that these kids, when they get this bad news and they realize, well, that's it. We're going to have to glove up because we're not going out losers. And that's when the best work comes.
And speaking of gloving up and helping others, Ethan, you've got a big event coming up this weekend, right?
I do, and that wasn't a deliberate segue to myself.
It wasn't, but...
although I am shameless, and I will start talking about myself at any point in time if it helps me. But yes, there's 2 back-to-back events for us, and I thank you, John, for actually pointing it out, because I was going to let it slide this episode. But as you know, December 6th is our 4th annual Combat Radio Christmas event for homeless children, where we bus in Polar Express style about 300 to 400 homeless children and their families, and it's Christmas for them. It's in a North Pole setting. Santa workshop type setting. They get presents, they get brunch, they get a chance to matter, they get a little bit of kindness, which they do not get daily. Their self-esteem is ripped from these kids quite early. And you'd be surprised at how normal the families really are and how outsourcing has affected the American economy to lead us to doing these events. But on November 22nd, we have our first ever Christmas benefit concert and toy drive featuring many of the celebrities who do the show with us, but more importantly featuring the surviving members of Oingo Boingo, Blondie, the Eurythmics, the Cult, Harold Payne, who was a songwriter for Rod Stewart, Bobby Womack, Kelly Rowland, Snoop Dogg. Brilliant lineup of performers. It's a free concert. Bring an unwrapped toy valued at $10 or $15. Get involved. You can actually buy the Christmas CD we produced to benefit social services, and you can do a lot of good. That's November 22nd. It's at Valencia Town Center Mall in Valencia. I should get you the actual specific address, but I was bushwhacked by Beerley here. But it's at 24251 Town Center Drive, Valencia. The action starts at 5 o'clock, and we've got Beyonce's band there, Prince's band, composer Jim Venable from Clerks and Scary Movie. It's a brilliant lineup of artists. It's all Christmas, and it's all free just for a chance to do some good. And you can, of course, go to CD Baby and enter Combat Radio Christmas and get the album, which also supports our work with social services. So it's all good, and I appreciate the very courteous plug. I should throw it over to our guest Marisa here and ask what she's got that people need to know in closing.
Oh, what do I have? Oh,
Yes.
like going on? I have
Tons of excitement. Too much to talk about here, my friends.
Well, I have a web series. I'm in 2 episodes of Old Dogs and New Tricks. It's on odnt.tv. I'm going to be in episode 4 and 6. And then also I'm
Good.
Harry Clark is another web series on YouTube. You can subscribe to it. And a movie with Larry King called The Remake, and another movie, Junction, with Rance Howard, who's Ron Howard's father.
Yes, no, we all know Rance. We love Rance.
He's
Plenty of
awesome.
action.
He's amazing.
Plenty of action. Beerley, I have a quote ready when you are finished plugging what the world needs to know, but I will say it right now. We should say thank you, especially going into Thanksgiving, for the Speechley family, who really were instrumental in making this show possible. It was a simple idea, but it took them to do it. And
yes, Victoria Speechley, who had been with the Peace Fund for years, passed away. She was just pure. That woman was pure joy, and she gave so much of herself to making life better for others in any way she could. We were so sad to lose her, and the show is, we wouldn't have the show if not for her and her extremely generous family for providing funding for the show.
She, in turn, has done a lot of magical good.
She truly has. And Marisa, your Twitter, I believe, is Melissa Petroro at Twitter.
Yes,
and do you have a website that you have as well?
Sure, it's just my name, marisapetroro.com.
All right, and then you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook. 2 accounts, The Peace Fund for General Peace Fund Business, Peace Fund Radio for the show. Follow Adrian at AdrianPaul1. Follow Ethan at Combat Radio to find out about all the other amazing things that he is up to, including his Friday show, Combat Radio. And in closing, we have a special quote from Scott Adams. Remember, there's no such thing as a small act of kindness. Every act creates a ripple with no logical end.
Brilliant as always. For John Beerley, Adrian Paul, Marisa, and myself, thank you for listening to Peace Fund Radio. We'll catch you next Wednesday.
You're listening to Peace Fund Radio with Ethan Dettenmaier and Adrian Paul, right here on LA Talk Radio.